I should have walked away the second she opened the door. But instead, I just stood there, holding the damn wrench like it was some kind of excuse to stay. She wasn't supposed to look at me that way, like she already knew what I was thinking and hated me for it. Or maybe hated herself more. "Pipes under the sink," she said, stepping aside. Her voice was even careful, too careful. I ducked into the narrow kitchen, the smell of coffee still lingering in the air, stale and cold. The place was quiet. No TV, no music, just the faint hum of the refrigerator. It was the kind of silence that made every movement louder. The clank of metal on tile, the hiss of water when I twisted the valve. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, not watching me but not watching either. Every time I looked up, I caught her gaze flicking away too late. "You didn't have to come," she said, softer now. "Could have called a plumber." I smiled without looking at her. "Plumber charges triple for weekends. You've got me for free." Her silence stretched, and I felt it, the kind of pause that carries more weight than words. I focused on the pipe, tightening until my hands ached. She sighed. "You know this isn't fair." I froze. I don't know if she meant the pipe, the situation, or us. My chest tightened. I turned the wrench one last time, too hard, just to keep my hands busy. "Neither are you," I muttered. The words slipped out before I could stop them. The kind of line that should have stayed in my head, where it was safer. Her arms uncrossed. She straightened, like the air had shifted. "Don't start." "I'm not." I sat back, wiped my hands on a rag. "I'm just saying." Her eyes narrowed, but there was something else in them. Something that flickered and died too quickly. She walked to the sink, testing the faucet. Water ran smooth, no leaks. She nodded once, approving but distant. I should have left right then, said "You're welcome," and walked out the door. Instead, I leaned back on the floor, legs stretched out, pretending I was too tired to move. Maybe I wanted her to tell me to go. Maybe I wanted her to ask me to stay. "You always do this," she said quietly. "Do what?" Her hands gripped the counter, knuckles pale. "Make me feel like I'm—" She stopped. The word hung there, unfinished, like it scared her too much to say aloud. I swallowed. My throat was dry. "Like you're what?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. She shook her head, turning away. I stood finally, rag still in my hand, but I didn't step back. I was too close now, close enough to catch the faint trace of her perfume, something warm and lingering. She didn't move, didn't flinch. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered. The rag slipped from my fingers. My voice came low, almost steady. "Neither should I." For a second, neither of us breathed. The hum of the fridge seemed louder, the drip of the faucet a heartbeat. And then, she looked at me. Not the quick, stolen glances from before. Not the careful, guarded half-second looks. This was different. Her eyes met mine and didn't let go. The silence between us stretched too long. She turned away first, rinsing a coffee cup she probably didn't even need to wash. I should have said thanks and left, but instead I found myself watching her shoulders. How stiff they were, how she gripped the cup like she was trying not to shake. "You shouldn't talk to me like that," she said finally, voice low, almost breaking. I stepped back, giving her space, though every part of me wanted the opposite. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." She set the cup down harder than she meant to, the sound sharp in the quiet kitchen. And maybe she was right. Maybe I did mean it. I just didn't mean for her to hear. The truth was, I knew why this moment felt dangerous. She wasn't just some neighbor. She wasn't a stranger. She was my professor. I'd been in her class the whole semester, sitting in the back, pretending not to notice how the way she held herself made every word feel like it had weight. She was respected, untouchable, until now, when she stood in her kitchen with damp hair falling around her face and eyes that looked more tired than any lecture ever revealed. "You just got out of something?" I said quietly. It wasn't a question. Her back tensed. "That's none of your business." I know. My hands curled into fists at my sides. But you don't have to keep acting like you're made of stone. Her laugh was small, sharp, humorless. You think you see me, don't you? Like you're the first one to notice I'm not okay. I don't think, I said, stepping closer despite myself. I know. She turned then, finally facing me, and I caught it, the flicker of something raw in her eyes. Regret maybe, or just exhaustion. It hit me harder than I expected. That glimpse beneath the armor. I noticed everything. The way she pressed her lips together when she wanted to hide a thought. The faint line at the corner of her mouth from biting it too much. The way her fingers tapped against the counter now, restless, betraying her calm words. It made me want to reach out, just to still her hand. But I didn't. Instead, I said the stupidest thing. You don't have to pretend with me. Her breath caught, and for a second I thought she might yell, tell me to leave, end this before it went too far. But she didn't. She looked down at the rag I'd dropped earlier, picked it up slowly, and placed it on the counter between us, like a line she was daring me to cross. When she spoke, her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. You're not leaving yet, are you? My chest tightened. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She reached past the rag, fingers brushing my arm. Quick, light, like a mistake she didn't want to admit. But the touch burned, and I couldn't look away. Her hand lingered just a second too long on my arm. Enough for me to feel it, enough to make me forget the whole reason I came over. I told myself to step back, to let her retreat into her walls again. But I didn't move. You should sit, she murmured, pulling her hand away quickly, like the contact had burned her too. She gestured toward the small table by the window. I obeyed, though it felt strange. Like I was the guest in a place I shouldn't have entered at all. She poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs, sliding one toward me without asking if I wanted it. Her movements were steady, but her breathing wasn't. I wrapped my hands around the cup, more for something to hold than to drink. The rim was chipped. I couldn't stop noticing little things. The half-read book on the counter, the faint smudge of lipstick on the mug she chose for herself. Things that made her seem less like a professor and more like someone unbearably human. You don't know what you're doing, she said suddenly, sitting across from me. Her eyes met mine and didn't look away this time. Maybe not, I admitted. But I know what I feel. Her lips parted as if she wanted to answer. But then, her phone buzzed on the counter. The sound was sharp, cutting through everything. She didn't move. You should get that, I said, though part of me hoped she wouldn't. She stood slowly, glancing at the screen before turning it face down without answering. The decision was quiet but heavy, like a door closing. I'm not supposed to let you stay, she whispered almost to herself. Then tell me to go, I said, voice low. My fingers tapped nervously against the mug. Her eyes softened, but not in a way that reassured me. You think it's that simple? Something tightened in my chest. I wanted to laugh, to break the tension, but instead I blurted out, I think about you more than I should. Silence. Her breath hitched just slightly, and I regretted it instantly. My chair scraped back a little as I tried to stand, to undo the words. Forget I said that. She rose too, blocking me without meaning to, the space between us closing until it was unbearable. You shouldn't, she started, but her voice trailed off. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then brushed against mine where it rested on the chair. The touch was barely there, accidental, but it made my pulse spike. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to pull back, fingers curling tight against my palm. I'm sorry. Her laugh was quiet, strained. Don't be. You're just... She stopped, biting her lip, shaking her head. The phone buzzed again, louder this time, vibrating against the counter like a warning. Neither of us moved toward it. We stood there, hands inches apart, both of us pretending not to notice that the world outside kept trying to break in. And in that suspended moment, with the unanswered call humming in the background. I knew. We were one breath away from crossing the line. The phone finally stopped buzzing, leaving a silence so sharp it made the air heavy. I could hear her breathing, steady but shallow, like she was holding back something she didn't dare let slip. "You can't keep looking at me like that," she said suddenly, almost snapping the words. I flinched, my hands still curled against the chair. "Like what?" "Like you see me." Her voice cracked on the last word, and it stopped me cold. She pressed her palms flat against the counter as if steadying herself. "I don't want you to," she whispered, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. "I don't know how not to." Her head turned, eyes meeting mine, and for once I didn't drop my gaze. My chest ached, like the words were dragging something out of me I'd kept buried. "I think about you," I said, my voice low, unsteady. "Not just here, not just now. In class. At night. Every time you walk past me like I don't exist." Her eyes widened, and she shook her head quickly. "Stop. I can't." I stepped closer, slow, careful. "You make it impossible." The weight of it hung between us. She opened her mouth, then shut it, her jaw tightening. Her hand went to her face, covering her eyes like she could block out what I just said. "You're too young," she said finally. "I'm old enough to know what I want." Her laugh was small, broken. "You don't understand. I can't do this again." "Again," I echoed. Her hand fell from her face. She looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I saw it. The regret etched deep into her. I already ruined something once. Someone trusted me, and I ruined it. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. "I won't do that again." I should have backed off. Should have let her have her boundary. But the way she said it, like she was trying to convince herself more than me, pulled me in closer. "I'm not him," I said quietly. "And you're not the same woman you were then." She closed her eyes, shaking her head, but she didn't move away when I reached out and brushed my fingers against her wrist. The contact was small, tentative, but it lit something between us neither of us could smother. Her eyes flew open. For a long, fragile second, we just stared. Her wrist beneath my touch, her breathing uneven, my pulse hammering. "You're going to regret this," she said, voice trembling. "Then let me," I whispered back. The room went still. No phone, no fridge hum, nothing but our eyes locked, both of us standing on the edge of something that could never be undone. And in that silence, everything waited on her next breath. Her eyes didn't move from mine. The silence was thick, almost unbearable, when her phone lit up again. This time she didn't ignore it. She grabbed it quickly, turning away as if I wasn't standing there. Her voice dropped low when she answered. "Yes, I know. I said I'd call back." "No, I'm not." She stopped, glancing over her shoulder at me. Her face tightened. "Please don't come here. Not tonight." A pause, then a soft, "I'll explain later." She ended the call and set the phone face down, her hands trembling just slightly. I wanted to ask. I shouldn't have, but the words slipped out anyway. "Who was that?" She didn't look at me. "Someone I used to be with." I swallowed hard, stepping closer despite myself. "Used to." Her silence stretched too long, the weight of it answering before she did. Finally, she sighed, leaning against the counter like she couldn't hold herself up anymore. "My ex-husband." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because she had been married, I already assumed that, but because of how she said it. Like the call wasn't just a relic of the past, but something still tangled in her present. "He still calls?" I asked carefully. Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "He doesn't know how to let go." "And do you?" The question escaped before I could stop it. Her eyes lifted to mine, sharp, wounded. "What are you asking me?" I felt my throat tighten. "If you're still holding on to him, or if you're just scared of what this is." She froze. The air shifted. I knew I'd gone too far. But instead of pushing me away, she whispered, "You don't understand. He was a student, too." My chest dropped. The words ripped through me like a cold wind. I stared at her, trying to piece it together, but she wasn't looking at me anymore. Her eyes were glassy, far away. "Years ago, he was older than you but still young. And I let myself believe it was love. It wasn't. It ended badly, and I promised myself I'd never." Her voice broke. "Never make that mistake again." My hands curled into fists. For a second, I didn't know if I was angry at him, at her, or at myself. "I'm not him," I said, my voice rough. Her head turned then, eyes fierce. "You could be." The words cut, but behind them I heard the truth, the fear that was choking her more than the memory itself. I stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off me. "Or I could be the one thing you get right this time." Her breath caught, and for the first time since I walked into her house, she had no answer. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was charged, dangerous, like the ground had shifted and neither of us knew if it would hold. Her words hung in the air, "You could be." It would have been easier if she'd pushed me out, slammed the door, left me with nothing but the memory of this night. But instead she stood there, torn open, and I couldn't pretend anymore. "I'm not walking away," I said quietly. "Not tonight. Not unless you tell me to." Her hands pressed against the counter, fingers digging into the wood like she needed it to steady herself. "You don't understand what it costs me. Then make me understand." She looked at me, eyes raw and unguarded. "I lost everything once. My reputation, my marriage, myself. You think I can survive that twice?" Her voice cracked on the last word, and something inside me broke with it. I stepped closer, slow, cautious, until I was only a breath away. "I'm not asking you to survive," I whispered. "I'm asking you to live with me, even if it's just for this moment." Her breath shuddered, lips parting like she wanted to argue, but the fight drained out of her. The silence between us was no longer empty. It was heavy, full of everything we'd been holding back. "Say it," she whispered. "Say what you're not supposed to." I didn't hesitate. "I want you." The words landed like a confession, like a sin. But instead of recoiling, she let out a sound, half laugh, half sob, and pressed a hand to her mouth. "You shouldn't have said that," she murmured through her fingers. "Neither should you," I replied, echoing the same rhythm that had followed us all night. Her hand fell away, and she looked at me, really looked, like she was seeing me for the first time without all the barriers and fears. And then, finally, she leaned in. Not a kiss, not yet. Just her forehead against mine, her breath mixing with mine. The smallest, most dangerous surrender. "I don't know how this ends," she said. "Neither do I answered. My hand found her wrist again, gently, as if reminding her I was real. "But we can't pretend anymore." Her eyes closed, lashes wet. She nodded once, the tiniest movement, but it felt like the ground shifting beneath us. I could have kissed her then. God, I wanted to, but instead I let the moment hold us, trembling with the weight of everything unsaid. When she finally pulled back, her face was still inches from mine, her voice low and fragile. "Promise me one thing. Anything. Don't let me ruin you." My chest tightened. I touched her cheek, barely brushing the skin with my thumb. "You couldn't if you tried." The silence that followed wasn't the kind that kept us apart. It was the kind that pulled us closer, inevitable, unstoppable. We were already falling. We stood there, suspended between fear and want, between all the reasons we shouldn't and the one reason we couldn't turn back. And then, for the first time that night, she smiled. Not polished, not careful, just small and tired and real. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," she said softly. "Then let's not talk about tomorrow," I whispered. "Let's just have this." She nodded, the tension in her shoulders easing, as though she'd been waiting for permission to stop fighting herself. She let me hold her then, not with desperation, but with something gentler, steadier. The kind of touch that didn't demand anything except honesty. And in that quiet embrace, the weight she carried seemed to lift, just a little. She wasn't the professor anymore, and I wasn't just her student. We were two people, both bruised in different ways, both terrified of what it meant to be seen. Her confession still echoed in me. I already ruined something once. But tonight proved something else. Sometimes you don't get it right the first time. Sometimes it takes the wrong choices, the regrets, the mistakes, before you finally find the person who makes you want to risk it again. I thought of the way she had avoided my eyes, the way she held herself like stone, the way she admitted she couldn't survive breaking twice. And yet, she was here. She let herself lean into me. She let me stay. That was the change neither of us expected. Not a dramatic ending, not a perfect promise of forever, but a choice to stop pretending. To stop hiding behind fear and guilt. Maybe that's all love ever really is, not certainty, but choosing each other even when it feels impossible. She pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. "We'll have to face it eventually," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But when we do, we'll face it together." Her smile deepened, shaky but genuine. For the first time, I believed it. Thought balloon reflection for the listener. This story wasn't about a perfect romance. It was about two flawed people finding the courage to be honest, about regret, about longing, about the weight of past mistakes. It was about the risk of letting yourself be seen when it would be easier to hide. Sometimes, the line we're afraid to cross is the very one that leads us to who we were meant to find.